feels like the days are all like jumbled up and the days don't really exist anymore. But it's Friday today, okay? So let's be excited because it's the weekend. So we're starting a new series today called The Promises of God. And we're basically going to be looking at the promises that God gives us in the Bible, and why we need to know them and why we need to cling on to these promises. We celebrated Easter last weekend where we saw the ultimate promise of God. A van just drove past. The ultimate promise of God, the ultimate promise of Jesus, and we saw how faithful they were to that promise. And so we can trust in every other promise that God gives, that He's faithful to that too, that it's true. And so today's promise is from Exodus 14:14. Chloe touched on it on Sunday, and it's something that God has been speaking to me about as well, which is this: the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. The promise is that God will fight for you. God is fighting for me, God is fighting for you. And it's amazing because God is God. If you're going to choose anyone to be in your corner of a battle, who are you going to choose? Yourself or God? I think I'll choose God. Now this verse comes in the middle of the story of Moses leading his people out of Egypt. The Israelites have been stuck in Egypt for over 400 years. Moses has been called to lead the people out. Pharaoh has said no time and time again. They've had the plagues, and eventually Pharaoh is like, fine, go, take your people and get out of my country. And so that's the point where this promise comes in, because the people are leaving Egypt, but they come to the sea, the Red Sea, and they need to get over the other side. But they turn around and they can see that Pharaoh has changed his mind, and all of Egypt's army are now chasing towards them. So if they go forward into the sea, they're going to die. If they turn around and go backwards, they are going to die as well. For them, this situation seems impossible. And this promise is for those of you that feel like you are in an impossible situation. There's no way in this situation that you can get out of this okay. So we're going to stop the video now, pause it, have a read of the passage that's going to come up on the screen, and then we'll come back and talk about why this promise is an amazing promise for you to cling on to. There are times in our lives where we feel stuck, where we feel like our issues, our problems are caving in on us. Everything is closing in. We've got a problem here, we've got a problem there. Everything is just coming at us and we feel like, I cannot get out of this. Or maybe it's just one big problem that you feel surrounded by, that you feel like, I am stuck and I just cannot see a way out of this. It happens to all of us. And this promise is for you. God says, I will fight for you. Just be still. In the New Testament, Paul writes this: but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Paul says that when he's at his weakest, that's when he's at his strongest. Because when he's at his weakest, it's him admitting, I can't do this on my own. I have not got the strength to get through this situation. I can't see a way out of this. And when he's able to say that, he's able then to say, and therefore I have to rely on God. It is only by God that I am going to get through this situation. And therefore, when he's relying fully on God, he's strongest, because God is stronger than you, God is stronger than me, God is stronger than Paul was, God is stronger than all of us. And so when we rely on Him for strength, when we rely on Him to fight our battles for us, that is when we are at our strongest. And so when we see this promise in Exodus, I will fight for you, you need only to be still, we can be assured that we've got the strongest, most powerful, most caring, most loving, most faithful fighter battling for us. So there are loads of names for God, and one of the names that I'm hearing around a lot at the moment is Waymaker, which means that where we see there is no way, God is able to make a way. And so the Israelites were moving towards the sea. They had the army coming in from behind, and all that was in front of them was the sea. Interestingly, they weren't physically still. The verse tells us you need only to be still. Physically, they weren't still, and sometimes God doesn't want you to physically do nothing. Here, the Israelites are moving forward, and so they get to the sea. There is no way. But God, the waymaker, makes a way by parting the sea so that they can go through it, so that they can cross the sea and be safe from the Egyptians. And so whatever your situation is, God is the waymaker. And when he says to be still, or you need only to be still, he doesn't mean physically do nothing. In a lot of situations, there are things that we can and should be doing. But when he's saying you need only to be still, he's saying still your fears, still your thoughts, still your anxieties, and stop thinking about the worst case scenario. Stop focusing on your situation and instead focus on me. I am a peace giver. I will give you peace. Focus on me. I will swap those anxious thoughts for peace. Look to me. And in the verse before this promise, in verse 13, Moses also says that. He says, do not be afraid. And that's another thing that we can do is choose not to be afraid, is choose to focus on God and know that we've got the greatest, the strongest, most powerful, most loving, most faithful God fighting on our behalf. So be still, choose to focus on God, choose to focus on him, and know that when you're weakest, you are strongest because you have to rely on God.